Good day to you all. I am pleased to be on the press hour set with you again. Special tribute to George Bonkan Kalabupse, who raised the flag of the program very high for 8 years. Cameroon, as a sovereign, independent and decentralized unitary state, has been built for close to 60 years. As the maxim goes, it is difficult to build, but very easy to destroy. In just about 4 years, so much material and human resources have been destroyed and continue to be destroyed, and crisis in the northwest and southwest regions. Voices are crying from far and near why the senseless destruction with the innocent populations dehumanized with their lives underlined the about 100 billion CFA francs presidential reconstruction plan which is underway. The coordinator of the Reconstruction Commission started with a sensitization trip which has just ended in the Northwest. On Press Hour today, we shall be looking at the ingredients that can make such a daunting task work, and that will be our focus. We shall also discuss some obnoxious, resistant traditional practices that subject women to suffering, dehumanizing, sometimes deadly conditions when they lose their husbands, a period when they need comfort and compassion. This is within the framework of the World Widows' Day commemorated on June 23 this week under the theme Protecting Widows' Rights, Changing the Mentality. As panelists to talk about these issues, we have Honorable Njume Peter. He is an elite of the Southwest region and a member of Parliament. Thank you. Welcome, Honorable.
Thank you very much, Dandy.
We also have somebody who's a senior social worker. He's particularly going to handle issues dealing with widows' rights. Barrister Roland Panje is a senior social worker. Welcome to the program.
Thank you very much. I'm much obliged to be here.
We have our regular pressman here with us, Christian Nga Christian, who is the publisher of the Guardian Post newspaper. It's a daily. Christian, my pleasure to have you.
It's my pleasure too.
We have Professor Willie Broad Zengwa, who is just there. He will take that seat that you see here very soon as the camera zoom on him. That's how we're going to look at it today on Press Hour. But our starter on Press Hour is what the press fed on, and that is in press review done for us by Emanuela Vemny. Emanuela?
News on COVID-19 spread in Cameroon is yet to go unresearched on newspaper columns. The United Nations salutes the Cameroonian strategy to check this pandemic on Cameroon Tribune as Yaoundé sex workers struggle to survive COVID-19 pandemic on the Post newspaper. SDF slams Parliament for breaching COVID-19 rules on the Rambla before government fine-tunes strategies to fight against COVID-19 on Cameroon Tribune. Then Douala Port Authority inaugurates COVID-19 isolation unit on the Guardian Post. The reconstruction of the Northwest-Southwest regions takes a new phase on Cameroon Tribune with the sensitization mission of its national coordinator to the region. Minister Paul Tassong entreats separatist fighters join reconstruction of villages on the Post weekend. As President Paul Biya approves borrowing 206 billion CFA francs to tar Bamenda Ring Road on the Guardian Post. The Northwest-Southwest Women Task Force then condemned separatists for imposing a 3-day lockdown on the population as the national coordinator for the reconstruction plan visited the town, just when the reinsertion of ex-combatants is said to be effective on Cameroon Tribune. Then Chief Paul Fuanyi Nkemayang dies. The Post writes, the dramatic exit of a media warrior, journalism baobab. To the Rambler, the star dims at midnight. The Voice sees epic exit of exceptional press icon. These and more are testimonies to the publisher of the Star newspaper who died recently. The saga rocking the Catholic University Institute of Boya is far from over. The Voice headlines: Insolube Cube of Sacrament, Canon Law versus Corporate Governance. Then Fako High Court annuls Bishop's appointment, writes the Post-Weekender. At a time, former Vicar General, 2 others in court over killing of Father Sop, on the Guardian Post. Then government's credibility pays off with 219 billion CFA francs raised from the financial market, on the Guardian Post, as MPs advocate local consumption of Cameroonian products, on Cameroon Tribune. The Synergy for the Development of Traditional Medicine is built on the same paper before the rise is announced in prices of chicken in Cameroon due to COVID-19 spread. Let's now end our press review with this story on the Post-Weekender, wherein a man of God has revealed why pastors are dying a lot in the past 2 months in Cameroon. The President and General Overseer of Light World International, Dr. Leslie Mfonsame, says division in the church has opened the gate for the enemy to come into church and snatch men of God. According to Prophet Leslie, as he is called, 65 pastors have died in Cameroon in the last 2 months, and lack of unity among churches is the principal reason. Until I come your way again, this is your Hour with the Press.
Very much, Manuela. That was very rich what the press fed on last week. And with the panelists, I want to welcome Professor Willibrod Zengwa, who was just standing somewhere near us and he could not get on to the set. While we were on, Prof, you're welcome.
Yeah, it's a pleasure to be here. And especially as I got you wish tribute to Joe, who is handing you over the baton of command with the wish that you're going to actually hold it. It's my pleasure to share a panel with the beautiful people I see here. So thank you.
You're welcome, Prof. Just to remind viewers that Professor Willibrod Zengwa is a political scientist. He is also an expert of peace and conflict resolutions, and we're going to exploit all those qualities, all those abilities in this program today. And the program, as we said earlier, focuses on the reconstruction of the Northwest Southwest. As we know, much has been destroyed by the crisis in those 2 regions. And I just want us to go around. The national coordinator of the commission, Mr. Tazon Paul, was in Bamenda. That was the beginning of the plan put into action. Started with sensitization in Bamenda. He's eventually going to move to Boya, or Southwest generally. I want to begin by asking you, gentlemen, we badly, I should even say, need the reconstruction of these 2 regions. Honorable, I begin with you.
Yeah, I want to start by saying kudos to the head of state for thinking of this very, very important project. And I want to encourage the Prime Minister and Minister Paul Tasson to move on. It is something I would say God has ordained it, and so it is very much welcome.
Yes, Professor Willibrod Zengwa, it is never too late. Better late than never. It has come all the same. And we wish that those 2 regions be reconstructed.
Yes, reconstruction is part of national policy. And I want to take this opportunity to actually thank the government of Cameroon and other stakeholders, especially the international partners who are bent at getting this reconstruction go on. But let us say that this reconstruction has to be paved in 2 ways. The soft what I call the soft power reconstruction and the hard power reconstruction. Soft power would be the sensitization campaigns, education, training, and all of that. I think it's a welcome relief if and only if we take one step after another in a very judicious manner.
The first step, Prof, is already taken, and that is the beginning.
It's about to be taken.
Sensitization, you just said.
It's just started.
Yes. Now I will skip Christian because he's a colleague, you know, and come to you, Barrister Roland Panje. You are a senior social worker, and much of what has been destroyed in these two regions is in the social domain. We need it so much, the reconstruction of the Northwest and Southwest regions.
In fact, the reconstruction is a very, very important measure, and I want to thank the head of state and the Prime Minister for such an initiative. And it means that the grand national dialogue, the fruits not long from now shall be seen. And reconstruction is very, very important in that we should forget about blaming A or B for the problems, but all of us should come together to see into it that the areas that have been destroyed should be reconstructed, and we move on with Cameroon as before.
Exactly.
And the other point is that we should also bear in mind that we are going through a very complicated and difficult moment in this country that
we need to rethink our way forward. Yes, we're going to come to the full discussion. Yeah, I listened to the national coordinator of the Reconstruction Commission, Christian. You're a colleague, the publisher of the Guardian Post newspaper. He was responding to a question asked by one of the pressmen out there in the Northwest, the place of the press. And he was saying the press should take its position, should not go from the fourth estate
to the seventh.
To the seventh
or the second.
Yeah, yeah, before I come to that, I think all the other panelists have actually, just like I shared the idea, that it is good to reconstruct. It's a very brilliant idea, and that is just to say that the head of state and the Prime Minister, they have the good of the two English-speaking regions at heart, and that's something that everybody appreciates. But I have a little worry.
Yes, for worries, we're going to come to that.
Let me just, I may not have the opportunity to say it, but
I will give you the opportunity. We'll have 1 hour.
Okay, let me talk about the press. But yes. I want to say that the seemingly, let me call it the war in bracket, is still going on. And the question that comes to mind, how can we be reconstructing in the middle?
That will be part of our discussion, okay. As I said.
And then talk about the press. I think as a newspaper publisher, I want to commend the action of the coordinator, who has studied wise to engage the media in this reconstruction process.
That's
and we are ready to give them the support.
That's correct.
In that daunting task.
Thank you very much, gentlemen. Ladies and gentlemen, you have seen that was just taking the temperature of the program. We're going to move over to Bamenda to see exactly what the national coordinator of the Reconstruction Commission did there through the eyes of our colleagues. We're also going to get from the reports that follow the expectations of the population. Gonenge Swebu Shari and Kilo Nsala did the joint report for Press R.
It has been 5 days of frank talk between the vital forces of the Northwest region and the national coordinator of the presidential plan for the reconstruction and development of the two English-speaking regions. One thing that stood out clear was a general yearning for a speedy return of peace and economic recovery to the crisis-ravaged regions.
I think we have suffered a lot, and everybody is eager to come back home and to see our home being rebuilt.
The national coordinator of the presidential plan, Paul Tassong, has made it clear that the effective implementation of the plan will be a welcome relief.
If we understand that the presidential plan is therefore one of the pathways to peace, it doesn't make sense to wait for peace to fully return to start implementing it. The ultimate objective is to attain sustainable peace within 2 years.
Conscious of the bright prospects offered by the presidential plan, the vital forces of the Northwest region have pledged their readiness to fully support the initiative.
We, the leading forces of the Northwest region, in the presence of the administration of the Northwest region, hereby declare that we stand behind the presidential plan for the reconstruction and the development of the Southwest and Northwest region.
Minister Paul Tasson has assured that the execution of the plan will be done in total transparency and according to international norms and standards.
March 8, 2020, Women's Day celebration in Bamenda turns sour. While others panic and escape, owners of these shops have paid the immediate price. This is happening at the heart of Bamenda, and it is a replica of the entire region drained by a 4-year socio-political stalemate with extensive damage.
The businesses which were burned and all of that. We have bridges that leads to some of the royal areas that were burned down.
Hindu schools have been burnt. Right now like this, all my cousins are no more going to school. So we are pleading on the government whether they can renew the schools.
In a region said to have the mention for with extensive energy potential, there is still energy crisis.
Since 2018 and up to date, no means of communication. So if they can repair it and we start having network, it will be much better.
Many people have welcomed the reconstruction from an infrastructural perspective. They say it would be wiser to start with mental reconstruction.
You watch those images that are pleasant to nobody in Cameroon. I think none of us would like that, and that is exactly what we are talking about and why we took that temperature with the fact that we really need reconstruction. Now we're going to begin to watch that together. What do we have to put into this package of reconstruction? Remember that we are structuring into 2 parts. So we want to see the ingredients that will make it work. Now we're going to, in the second part, look at the challenges. So first of all, we're going to start with Professor Willibrod Zengwa. What should we put into that package of reconstruction?
Yeah, I think somebody used what I said, soft power construction, to mean mental reconstruction. I think that is very vital. Let's start from the standpoint that during the minister's visit to talk about to sensitize the population, there was a call for boycott or what goes down. So it means that there is a segment of the population who have a determined will not to see the reconstruction work because they might have been pushed out of the corridors of decision making. So what should be put in place as an ingredient should be first, primarily, peace. Peace will come with social justice. And I think that somebody talked of Menchum. I've not been home. I just had a picture of my residence this morning, all shattered. Now, I cannot be
recently?
home. Well, no, old pictures.
Okay.
Yeah. What we actually need is that the politicians should climb down from their political ladder and embrace the others. Because it seems as though the reconstruction process is being tackled from the perspective of the victor-vanquish approach. That is, the government has victored, we are going to see that this reconstruction is carried on at all costs. So the bedrock should be peace, reconciliation, social justice, so that the people should have a mind of self-determination. Let me say that, let us talk about ceasefire. We need ceasefire. We need to build confidence with the people. We need to withdraw the military. Thank God we have an international perspective where there is a call for worldwide ceasefire. And I think that if the government of Cameroon, let me say both sides of the divide, both those who are for the Amber fighters and the government forces should be able to institute ceasefire and then build confidence. If we do not build this confidence to talk about what the minister was talking about, sustainable peace, then we are still going to one thing. So the main ingredient, I should say, should be ceasefire and peace building.
Yes, Honorable, apart from ceasefire and peace building, which he rightly points out, we also want to know what are the type of projects that may bring that peace. You know, there's also a way of convincing people with the type of projects. What are the type of projects that we can put into the reconstruction?
Yes, thank you very much. But before I go to the type of projects, I just want to say that Prof talked of peace. Very important. It's a vital ingredient. But who is going to bring the peace? It is we, the people who want the reconstruction. There's not somebody from outside who is going to bring the peace. And when he is talking of withdrawing the military, it doesn't work that way. It doesn't work that way. Because to be very honest with you, if the military were not there at this point in time, whether I like it or not, it could have been total disaster in some places, like in my own area. And so, let us look at it this way. Who wants the peace? It is we, the people, who want peace. And it is the same with the people who want reconstruction. So it is we all here, all of us from the Northwest and Southwest, who have to start rethinking of the importance of peace. We have suffered for 4 years. Who wants to tell us again that we need peace? Do you want John the Baptist to come and tell you that you need peace, or Moses? We need peace. We cannot sit in Yaoundé and be thinking that that thing is... No, we cannot be saying that. The people down there are suffering. And the people down there, I want to tell the truth, they want peace.
Exactly.
They want peace. So now, I think it is time for us, the elite, to build up our minds like those who are suffering down there. It's not because we are here in Yaoundé, we are having some relative peace, and then we think that we can be talking while those down there are suffering. I have been down there several times. The people are crying. They want peace. And let me tell you straight away, when they hear of this reconstruction program, which has been put in place by the government, they are waiting. They are waiting. And it is therefore up to us to start talking peace from every angle.
Yes, that peace, the national coordinator talked of, and Professor.
Yes,
and
the
sensitization.
That is it. And to come back to what a prof said, when there was the national dialogue, every strata of the society was invited. Some refused to come. Some refused to come. And they stayed behind and they were making noise. This is the time that we have to start, changing our mindset.
How do we get those people on board? That is a very vital
Let me
question.
tell you something. There is a certain time that you may want even to reconcile with somebody and he refuses. Because just by you saying that, please, can we talk peace? And the person says no. What do?
You change approach.
Which approach will you take?
Yes,
if you permit.
Christian, yes.
Yeah, if you permit, I think the Honorable is right. But we have the practical realities on the ground. I am working as consultant for DDRU in an international structure. The point is that I just talked about politicians. Let us not politicize the peace building in the field. Because in trying to politicize it, we are going to cause the same people who cause the havocs in the field to lead the reconstruction process. when we were seeing the elite, we were talking about we need frank talk from vital forces of the Northwest region. I am from the Northwest region. I am from Menchum Division. I have never been considered as an elite from Menchum Division. I have never been summoned as an elite from the Northwest region. But I'm an international expert for peace building, reconciliation, disarmament, demobilization, and reconstruction. So, where do I belong? So what we are trying to say is that the politicians should climb down. They should climb down from the high pinnacles and embrace civil society organizations. Let us not get the same faces who are in the field, every time the same faces to try to build peace. Get the experts, get everybody within the society, get the women, get religious authorities, and the politicians please.
Let me say something.
Just hold on, Prof.
Prof, you can still give your contributions.
Yes, see.
Even if you are not part of
I want to be very fair.
No, please, can I say something?
You can still give your contributions. It doesn't mean that because you are not part of the team.
You are not. You guys are not more of Cameroonian than others. I would like to. When the MP says that we can give the contributions from the background, we share the same panel in the Grand National Dialogue. We share the same room.
That's right.
We discuss together.
Yes.
What I'm trying to say is that it shouldn't be the same people all the time to play the role when they have little knowledge of what reconstruction should be.
I was cut short.
That is what I'm trying to say.
In all he has not ended with. Prof, you as a peace and conflict resolution expert, he said that some people, you propose reconciliation, for example, and they say no. I just said change of approach. As a peace and conflict resolution expert, which approach do they, who have failed in what has been happening? We just want the approach.
Effective participation.
This
and by effective participation, I mean inclusion. It shouldn't be the politicians all the time. I think that the civil society at this juncture, which is less partisan, should be put at the forefront.
That Christian said that the government for involving them.
Let me calm down, Christian.
Everyone is involved.
Christian, you go ahead. Go ahead.
Let me just say that. Let's not make this program look like it's between you and the two panelists on my left. Because I see them taking all of the time, which is good anyway. But this is what I want to say, Joe. I followed the sensitization meeting in Bamenda. I thought I was going to see representatives from even the Bayam Selams. I thought I was going to see representatives from the drivers union or syndicates and the other people on the ground. We see the same faces as Prof is saying every day, and some of these faces are the people who have pushed us to where we find ourselves today.
We are trying to.
Excuse me, please.
No, have you found out?
Honorable,
I have the list of those who were there.
Honorable, let him go to the end of.
We are talking about the approach to use.
Yes.
Remember, I made a salient point here. We cannot be rebuilding when the war is still going on. Excuse me, please. Let me, please, allow me to talk. The war is in the mind and is physical. What do I mean?
Christian.
Can you allow me to learn, please?
No, you are not learning. What we are talking about now
is approach.
No, it's the ingredients.
That's what I want to say.
No, you are already looking at what may not make
No, please. I need to go gradually and I deliver my point. What I'm saying is this. This sensitization to me would not have been about sitting in a hall in Bamenda and calling the same people you talk with every day. It was, in my opinion, when I heard that the coordinator was going out to the regions for sensitization, I thought it was something that was even going to be off camera, where you sensitize the people who are in the bushes to say, look, we have suffered enough, and look, let's give peace a chance and let this reconstruction take place, and then you talk to them. Not that you call the same people you talk with every day.
Christian, let me continue with him. Did you see all the people you are talking about? Wait, Honorable, let me ask you.
This sensitization, in my opinion, did not need TV cameras.
I have not asked.
We needed to hold. Excuse me, please.
Why?
Do you know that within that period we had a 3-day ghost town in Bamenda? Why did we not get to the people?
It's not because it was an open occasion.
They were not supposed to be an open.
They will always call for ghost town.
Excuse me.
Because they want to thwart
when you go to Bamenda,
you know that you're not answering the question.
Yes,
you're not letting me allow you.
Okay, ask the question.
You asked for time. I gave you.
Yes.
You spoke. Now I wanted to ask a question. You were answering.
No, okay, I'm listening.
The people who were present in that meeting in Bamenda were representatives of these people you were talking about.
That is it.
Is it not true? No, between you and I, is it not true?
No, look, please. Let's not pretend.
It is not true.
It is not true.
Come on. Have you got the list?
No, it's not about the list.
Okay, let him answer.
No, this is what I'm saying.
Yes.
Killian, let's not sit here and talk to police people.
Yes.
What I understood...
Who were those people present?
The people who are in charge of reconstruction. I did not expect to see TV images. I thought they would go right down. Look, we know those who are obstructing or who would obstruct the construction.
What is the problem?
The people who are in the bushes.
Please, just hold on.
And those are the people who have to sensitize and clean their minds against further destruction.
And what do you think has to be done? What have
we need to...
You, the press.
I asked the questions, Honorable.
We need to get these people out of the bushes and clean their mentality to know that we have suffered enough.
Good.
And that this is the time for reconstruction.
Who should get those
When
people?
they buy our idea, that is when we can start rebuilding.
Who should talk to them?
Who should get these people out of the bushes? That's what we're looking at.
Non-partisan Cameroonians, much more. Civil society organizations.
You are being exclusive now.
Okay.
No, I say
okay.
predominantly.
You mentioned the word inclusive. Now you are not trying to be exclusive.
I am not exclusive.
It's okay. I got what I want.
Yeah, I think it should be.
Barrister Roland.
Yes, thank you very much. You were talking about...
you react first, then I ask you.
Approaches.
Yes.
This is how can things work out. And the first is to identify the things that were destroyed, as well as identify the victims. But we should avoid the type of cribby situation of indemnity where, as they say, those who had problems should come and give their names, and we will see strange names on that list with funny properties that were destroyed. We should avoid that. That's the first
transparency, which is part of
yes. And the second part is that peace is really needed. Everybody needs peace. But how do we work to attain this peace?
Yes, how do we?
If we use the same people every time, those who are if we use the same people every time, those who are disgruntled will never come out to explain situations.
Well,
just a minute, please.
He talked about
secondly,
civil
society is a generic word that has several. It's like a hydra hose.
Can you analyze that?
You see, but what I just want to say is that peace is very vital. But those who are called as architects to come and talk this peace should be people worthy of that sort to talk on both sides, and then the population will be able to understand them. Coming to the point now that you say you want to ask a question,
yes,
we should check and cross-check
the
things that have been destroyed.
You said that, please.
We have bad roads in the northwest. We don't have water, we don't have light. But I think we should identify those things before we move on.
Let other people speak.
You are getting it.
I'm still with you.
We should avoid apportioning blames if we need peace.
Barrister.
Yes.
You are talking about people. We need to change. This reconstruction is part of a general plan to get to the end of the crisis. Everybody wants the crisis to end. Reconstruction is just part of it. We have the national dialogue. We've had so many other fora where we're looking for solutions to the crisis. What I'm asking now, as you say, is who break this down? Not just talking about peace, we have heard. Who are the other people? Because I know the clergy have gone down. Civil society, maybe not to the level Professor Zingwa wants, has been involved. And he says he's a national consultant at one level. The press is involved.
No, let me not please. All these people we are mentioning were at the major national dialogue, and the war has not ceased.
That is
what I'm saying is that we need a change. No, we still have people being killed.
No, why has the war not ceased?
What I'm saying, all these people we are mentioning, we saw them at the major national dialogue.
Why has the war not ceased?
What we have to do is that there is an urgent need for change of tactics and mentality. We need to go down to the bushes and talk to those people who are obstructing peace and reconstruction.
Honorable.
It is only when we get people out of the bushes that we can talk about reconstruction.
Christian, you know, you are talking to people. I'm asking you have said that we have heard. People have listened to you out there. We are saying, who are the people you want to go there? That's what we want.
These things are not, look, let me tell you, this is my understanding. You cannot be trying to convince people who are in the bushes and you take along TV cameras, as we saw in Bamenda.
No, that was Bamenda, that was
me.
not the bushes now.
No, we need to send people
now
on the ground to convince those who are going to obstruct this reconstruction process to drop down their arms, come out from the bushes, clean their mentalities, and when once they...
who?
That is
we as Cameroonians.
No. Okay, we're going to move out. No, we're going to move out. We have another topic.
Reconstruction where it is cool. Where is it cool in Northwest and Southwest?
Exactly. That's a new ground. He's saying, the national coordinator said, he acknowledges that there is still trouble in the field.
That's it.
And there are areas where there is calm. While mapping out the whole area for reconstruction, we start where it is calmer, and in the process we go. So thank you for bringing up that point. We are now going to we have looked at transparency. What are the challenges now?
Can I just say one last thing, please? This is one last thing on this.
Have you noticed that you are imposing yourself?
No, I'm sorry, please. I think we are here to help government succeed in this project.
In an orderly manner.
Yes, but this is what I want to just say to those who are in charge of reconstruction. Every family, they know who of their children are in the bushes. If I know that this family have one child in the bush, I can go there and say, please, can you call your child and educate them on the importance of peace and reconstruction? Once we're done with that phase, we can now bring all the cameras, the TV cameras, and bring all the people. At that time, we know that we are saying something that will be realistic.
Are you satisfied?
Yes.
Okay. We are going to, just the last word now, we're moving out of the topic, of that first part of the topic, because we have a second topic. Now, briefly, what are the challenges and how can we overcome some of the salient points that we will make against the success of this plan?
Yeah, the first challenge, Kilian, is that especially the elite of the Northwest and Southwest should change our mindset. We are the ones who are, believe me or not, who are keeping these boys with our own mentality, because either we're not satisfied in this way or the other way. I'm telling you the simple truth. By the time we all come together and we understand that it is time for us to help those in the villages, it is time for us to see that our children go back to school. It is time for us to see that development goes back to our places. Not because I'm in Yaoundé, because I'm in Douala, or because I'm somewhere else. Therefore, I start talking as if those down there don't matter. By the time we start reasoning and we come together as one person, we'll be able to work out strategies to see how we can tell these boys to come out. After everything, he says something here, that let us talk to these families whose children are in the bushes.
Okay.
Let them tell their children to come out
of the bushes. Thank you. I think that is capital. Prof, you're going to give some challenges, but before you give those challenges, snappily, tell us what are the projects that can, capital projects, where we can put on the table and start with.
I think the most important project is the education project. Okay. When I talk about education project, I mean that education that's going to win back the minds of those who are disgruntled.
Okay.
I'm talking about the peace education we are talking about. Vocational training that can be able to give people some abilities to do something, not necessarily the long-term education.
Also
so if we educate...
Also building distress groups.
Well, we want to start from the basics. Okay. Although we are told that you cannot wait for peace, total peace, to return to the ground before you start reconstruction. I totally adhere to that. Okay. So I think that if we begin with reconstructing the mind, I mean, with what I call effective citizenship education, winning back the people from the bushes, winning back the people from their mental drives, then we are going to move on to something else much more concrete, what I call the heart reconstruction. I think that is important. But again, if I have to move to the second question, yes. What challenges? Let me say, I don't want to say I regret being here. I'm very pleased to be here. But the way we handle the issue here makes it sounds very, very, very political. I'm talking my brother, MP. He says something very, very concrete, that we should change the elite of the Northwest and Southwest region should change their mentalities. I totally adhere to that. But it now depends on whether the elite, political elite, include other elite. Because by the definition of the elite in the Northwest and the Southwest region, they don't include anybody who is not a politician.
Thank you.
So I want to come in.
Yes, we'll see how we arrived at that.
No, he moved further to say that some of us should give them what we think so that they contribute on our behalf, which is wrong. Let me say this. I started doing the reconstruction without even the reconstruction. I mobilized people from the 13 divisions of Cameroon to train them on peace building so that they go back to their various divisions and continue with the peace building. These are some of the things that we are doing. So I think the most important challenge is to limit the same faces that the population have been against dialoguing. Let me say something as an anecdote. I was part of the major national dialogue, and I worked in the background with this commission, and let me tell you, some of the top politicians, some of the contractors have already developed schemes to be the ones to lead in the reconstruction. And that is why the politicians think that they should be in a change of mentality. We should involve youth leaders, women leaders, religious leaders, journalists, not only politicians, and then tie with the politicians to work in the field.
Thank you very much.
I think that is what I wanted to say.
Thank you very much. Do you know that the national coordinator is listening? So we hope that he is going to involve.
Another important point.
He is listening. We are coming to you.
Okay.
We are not leaving anybody out.
Okay.
Yes, challenge one.
Yeah, I think the other challenge we have, or the coordinator has, is how to, because there's something we call fear. When those who are calling for ghost towns and whatever, they do it, if we can succeed to kill fear in the minds of the local population.
Yes.
That is to say, they don't respect some of those calls to observe ghost towns. And then they collaborate with the military.
Good.
It will kill fear in the minds of the local population who are the victims of this crisis.
How do we kill the fear?
No, they should be able to disobey calls for ghost towns and all of those things.
No, I think I don't agree with that. While we are getting the fear, just one point. Let us realize that those in the bushes are an important stakeholder in this peace business. And therefore, we must actually engage them covertly or overtly in making them put down their guns.
We have understood. Now, the major challenge,
the major,
it's a social crisis, social-political crisis.
The most prominent is the issue of transportation. All of Southwest and Northwest are Yaoundé and Douala. How do you get back? That's the first point. And then the second is that those who are our champions always tell lies. You might want to go down, just give me 1 minute.
What do you mean?
They tell you places are calm. And immediately you go with your balise. You have not even opened it. The place starts getting hot. And you are now instead looking for a way to come back to a safe zone. And the other challenge is that most of our leaders have two problems. They work with lip services and their eye servants. If they don't see the authorities, they don't perform.
Good. We have understood. Please, we're going to move up. Thank you very much. From that topic to another topic, which is more social, which is not as hot as this, but it's a topic that pains so many people because it has to do with women. And this week, on the 23rd of June, the world observed, commemorated, if you want, the Day of the Widow. And you know what widows go through, especially in some of our societies. We used to say it took place in the villages, but civilized people are involved in these obnoxious, resistant, traditional practices. You are a senior social worker.
Yes.
Just give us some of the things that some of these widows go through when their husbands die. I know you're an expert in that.
Thank you very much. It's very pathetic for widows the world over, because as at now, widows make up about 2 million just around the sub-region. And the problems they go through are problems created in the house. As a widow, you have your human rights. But the family in which you find yourself, at the death of your spouse, you start having some difficulties to maintain the status quo of that family. Take, for instance, the dead person left children, left property, and left the wife. And immediately, they have not even buried him, and the family start telling you to give accounts, give vehicles, give houses. Did they think of the children's welfare? Did they think about the life of that woman?
Of course not.
And did they think about the community?
You're going to develop that.
Yes, I just want to say the situation of widows.
Just hold on.
It's a bit difficult in Cameroon.
We want to actually outline some of those obnoxious, I call it, traditional practices. Some women are asked, even today I will speak, to sit on the bare floor for the number of days, depending on where they are.
That's even better.
Okay.
They give you the water that they wash the cups of their husband to drink, to prove your innocence. Is there no other way that you can prove your innocence than, do they know the toxicity of that water?
Let us look at it, Christian. Is this recurrent within your traditional, your local community?
Anyway, in Donga Mountain, where I come from, I cannot remember when, like what he's pointing out. Maybe we watch them in Nigerian films, but in my area, but I've not noticed that. But I think the issue of family members rushing in to fight over property when the husband dies, sometimes if it does happen, I would want to think that it should serve as a lesson for every family.
Yes,
you know what I mean is there's what you call a will, which normally is done through a third party who is a legal mind. When once those they exist in law, I don't see how a family can come in.
Christian,
but they
disrespect it. Please, Barrister, what we are saying here is that we have that legal status which is official, but we also have another force which is traditional, and you live within a society. And sometimes those people in the background, they do things that if you don't succumb to what they want, you are going to maybe lose your life. That's what we are talking about. And these women fear, and some of them do that. Even civilized women, that's what I'm talking about. Are you saying that in your place, when a woman loses their husband, the hair is not cut, for example?
No, but in my area, sometimes even the men cut their hair. It's not just a woman.
No, by force. That's what we're talking about. Okay, Prof, we're going to look at some of these obnoxious practices.
Yeah.
Which of them can we extend, list them, and talk about how we must not have such things again in the 21st century?
Well, I'm very cautious when it comes to culture and society. When we talk about culture and development, I'm very cautious there because it is somehow obnoxious. You're right. The example that you just gave. But it is I don't always want when we put everything on one basket. Yes, we have the women. We have always advised that, social workers have advised that women should get married to entire families and actually be tied to the families. And if they get married to the families, such obnoxious rules will be limited. But sometimes the women who most often face these difficulties are those women when upon marriage they put a barrier. How many sisters do you have? I don't want sisters-in-laws. I don't deal with mothers-in-laws, and so on. So from the onset, they start putting some speed brakes in the relationship, and therefore these are some of those widows who actually have difficulties in. Let us also know that sometimes before you rush to see some of what the widows are equally doing, they conceal family property from even the children, from even the brothers and sisters. We are not saying that the brothers and sisters should have absolute right. But sometimes the women too, that might not be my standpoint, but sometimes too the women become very greedy to have it all, irrespective of how they came in, irrespective of the wealth of the man, which I think that if we do marry to the family and we consider ourselves part of the family and we treat every member of the family with some respect, these harsh post-death treatment would not be there, I think.
Yes, Prof. We have a senior social officer here.
With all respect.
With all respect, Barrister Roland Panje. What you are saying holds, generally speaking. But we know there are some women who can even give their head to the husband's family, and trouble will always come. We want you to, as a social worker, and you have a position in ministry.
Yes.
How many of some of these ones come? Is it just because the woman was not good or did not marry the family? We should use that expression.
Getting attached to the family is a condition sine qua non for every relationship to thrive. But getting too close at times exposes that woman to more difficulties. Take, for instance, levy rate. For the man's property to be left with you, the woman, you should accept to marry the brother. But at this time, with illnesses and all those other things involved, I don't think levy rate has a place. And the second part, too, on the side of the widow.
In some places, it's even considered incest.
Yes. On the other side, Killian, the way the woman lived with her in-laws will determine the thereafter of the death of the husband.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, that was.
Don't think the man just fell from the sky and is yours.
He talked about that already.
But your relationship with that family determines how your end will look like. Examples abound. Those who watched the television yesterday even saw a living example.
Yeah.
You see.
For those who did not watch your fresh German.
Yes. A lady went and blocked the doors of.
Let for his wife.
Okay.
Okay, we ended at that. You didn't answer the question. I'll come back to you. We are saying that, excuse me, we are saying that even when the woman is very good to some families, there are always troublemakers in some families.
Yes.
Yes, we're going to go to Honorable.
Yes. Killian, I think it's so disturbing to know that in the 21st century, there are certain practices in our tradition that will even make you at one point to feel ashamed. You know, I always think that, which is also true, that between tradition and the human being, God made the human being first. Tradition is what we have come to. Mm-hmm. Therefore, when it comes to these two things, the human person and his dignity and his well-being should come first. Therefore, any tradition that dehumanizes the human being should be seen as, you know, I mean, it should be modernized. It should be, if possible, discarded. And when you look at these kind of things, it's because that is why we have taken tradition ahead of God. Tradition is, to some people, is before religion. God.
Their religion.
Oh, yes, that is it. It is unfortunate. And why? Because they think that if you don't do this or that according to tradition, this is what is going to happen to you. Even if
fear of
what is being done is against God's will.
Now, I stay with you, Honorable. We have exposed all of that. We are going to phase out of the topic, beginning with you. How do we redress such obnoxious traditional?
Yes, first of all, I want to take the place of, let me just give you an example of what happened with my own tradition. We changed a lot of things.
Okay.
We changed a lot of things. From inheritance to the woman's position when the husband dies and things like it is we ourselves who have to change those things. I don't think tradition is like a kind of a God that if you go against him, like I said, we looked at those things that humanize. How can I see my mother being treated as a slave?
No.
It cannot happen. No. I won't accept it.
You will not
so
accept
it is we ourselves to be able to change those things.
That's how do we get out of it?
We should not be judgmental to other cultures and traditions, especially if the people within the culture don't complain. If we get a widow who complains, the complaints should be listened to. It depends on who considers the tradition obnoxious. Is it the people who consider it obnoxious, or is it a foreign eye which considers it obnoxious? I say this because I come from a background of matrilineal succession. We have matrilineal and patrilineal succession. And there are people who think automatically that matrilineal succession is hell, while others say. So, if the people who practice matrilineal succession don't complain, those who do not practice it should not be judgmental as to whether it is good
You're
or bad.
correct, Prof. But we are talking about dehumanizing practices.
Dehumanizing, yes. If it is dehumanizing, the word dehumanizing would mean it is dehumanizing to the victim and to the eyes of everyone.
And
but if the victim, if a woman, if a culture states, for example, that you have to sit on the floor when your husband dies, bare floor, if the woman feels that it is a commitment to the late husband, no one should consider that
even
obnoxious.
If that would lead to, because
if the woman protests
without begging for
1 month.
That is what. Let's not make fun with our culture, because the point is that I thought I was talking.
No, because we are concerned, all of us.
Yes. What we are trying to say is that there is culture and development. And in culture and development, don't take your culture and make it superior.
Person, not by culture,
of course, no, I'm not talking about you. I'm talking about the global you or the plural you. Yes. No one should take the culture and consider that culture to be superior to another one's culture. So what we are saying is that it all depends on what dehumanization would mean. If there is a complainant, the victim complains, yes, then it should attract attention. But if they adhere to their tradition and customs, we should not move on to quarrel to say...
Christian, thank you, Prof. Christian.
Yeah, I think...
Are we saying that if you are moving along the road, you see somebody battering the wife because the woman doesn't complain, you would just say, that's okay. Correct?
No, we would not say so, but I think there are some cultures in this country where women think that when they're beaten by their husbands, that's a sign that the husband loves them.
Well, that is something.
Well, it still obtains.
But we're talking about human rights here.
We're not talking about beating either. We are talking about traditions when it comes to dead rights.
And we are talking about human rights to encroach into tradition and make relationship more human. Yes, now we're going to end.
Who defines the human rights?
We are going to end with a specialist in the domain. Please,
of course.
Honorable, we have a specialist in the domain here.
Yes.
What does the law say about such treatment, and what is our country doing to make sure these practices don't exist?
The law
at least
punishes...
to draw the line between what is bad and what is traditional.
The law punishes traditional practices that are repugnant.
Okay. Which
means that they don't have a human face.
Okay.
But this same law is not in favor of the widow in that if she does not have a valid marriage certificate, she might make 30 children with that man. She has no right.
Okay.
And that, I just wish to add that we should kill laziness in some of our in-laws in that they are waiting for their brother to die so that they come and take everything plus the woman.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
I think everybody
I think I agree with that.
Yes, Prof, our time is up. We want to thank you very much. You had on the program today Honorable Njume Peter.
Thank you so much.
He's a member of parliament. You will have Professor Willibrod Zingwa. He is a political scientist and a peace and conflict resolution expert. We also had Christian, who is the publisher of the Guardian Post newspaper. And we have Barrister Roland Panje, who is a senior social worker. Thank you very much. Tune in next week for another edition of Press Hour. We're happy you were there. Have a blessed day.
Thank you very much. You see,